Hello, I'm Zeke.
And this is Jeanette with Oh-My-Geekers. Thank you for stopping by, everybody. This is our very first podcast, beginning with a 3-part series on J.R.R. Tolkien. And I'm going to be interviewing my son Zeke on this subject. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to ask, the first question I'm going to ask for you is, who is J.R.R. Tolkien?
J.R.R. Tolkien was a fantasy author and linguist. He basically revolutionized the way fantasy stories are written.
Fantasy stories. He revolutionized it?
Yes, he revolutionized it. Previously, they were more of fairy tales or nonsensical sort of stories like Alice in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm. And so how did he change that?
He changed it to a sort of a more serious tone, where that it wasn't just for kids, but adults could read it also. It's sort of epic fantasy, you would call it.
That's interesting. So why is it J.R.R. Tolkien?
J.R.R. stands for Jean Ronald Reuel Tolkien. That was his full name.
And so Tolkien is for short?
Yeah, Tolkien is for short.
Oh, okay. Anything else that you can share about him?
Well, his name isn't Tolkien, it's Tolkien.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I've been corrected on that one before.
He was born in Bloemfontein, South Africa.
I've never heard of Bloemfontein, but I have heard of South Africa.
Yeah, it's a city in South Africa.
Wow, I thought he was British.
He was British, but during that time in the 19th century, Britain had colonies throughout Africa and especially South Africa, so Bloemfontein was not a African city, but more of a British city in South Africa, and a lot of business people went there. Tolkien's father was among them, and later on in life, actually an early age, Tolkien moved back to England.
Oh, cool. So, what was Tolkien's profession and passion and all that?
So Tolkien was a philologist.
Philologist?
Philologist.
Okay, so what is a philologist? Philologist.
A philologist is a historical linguist who basically they take words and through the writing of that language, they can trace the history of that word through the writing.
Oh, so they kind of study historical
linguistics,
so they could take a dictionary word and pretty much know where that word in the dictionary came from.
Yes,
I think I've read that he actually took part in what's the word, not developing the dictionary but helping to write the dictionary. Am I correct?
Sort of. It was the Oxford Dictionary. It's the one we have basically on our phones. If we look it up, we'll find the definition, but also you can find little etymologies at the end, and he developed one edition for it, and sort of that one we sort of have parts of our dictionary that Tolkien helped develop. Basically, the sort of word origins.
So basically, he was a brilliant person.
Yes, he was a brilliant linguist.
He was a geek.
Yeah.
So, okay, so if there's one thing that you'd like to say about Tolkien that would inspire someone who's never heard of him, or who's never, or maybe who's not even interested in, fantasy and all that, what would you say to pretty much whet their appetite?
Well, I would say that Tolkien was a brilliant author and very brilliant linguist, and he basically changed not only the way fantasy stories are written, but also how other genres of stories are written. You can see it in Star Wars or Marvel or any type of genre you'd like. And he wasn't just a pioneer in fantasy literature, but also constructed languages. And
okay, so you're saying so let's take Star Wars for example. There's an actual entire language written specifically for Star Wars, and we're not going to get off on a rabbit trail about that, but Star Wars has, what's the name of that? Isn't it Taboo?
no.
I'd like to pretend that I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm just kind of a poser, a wannabe Star Wars fan. But I do hang out with Zeke, and he geeks out on that. But can you tell me what the language to the Star Wars movies are?
Well, it depends, because most languages you see in Star Wars aren't really real languages. They're just a bunch of words jumbled together. But there is one. It's called Mandoa, and it's the Mandalorian language. And sort of it's a well-constructed language, and most likely the creator of that language was inspired by Tolkien to create that language, sort of. And even George Lucas himself was influenced by Tolkien, and so was Clone Wars writer Dave Filoni.
But can you name just one popular author that that a lot of people really like, that are inspired by Tolkien?
Well, there's a lot. One person that comes to mind is J.K. Rowling of the Harry Potter books. She basically stole a lot, such as her, if you know this, Dementors. Mm-hmm. Basically, these hooded creatures that represent depression. They're sort of they look exactly like the Nazgul in Tolkien's books. Also, this isn't really that famous of an author, but S.D. Smith, writer of the Green Ember series. He basically has his influences from Tolkien. You can see that with his world building and his sort of saying things that really don't make any sense, just like Tolkien, that you have to go back to another story of his and like look that up, kind of figure it out and have to like read a prequel or something.
Oh my goodness.
Just like Tolkien.
Wow. So basically, Tolkien had a very interesting character to where people love his literature so much that they borrow kind of the same type of how do I say that? The same type of things. I'm looking for the right word, but I can't find it.
Tropes.
What's a trope?
It's a plot device in fiction that it's sort of very popular, but not popular enough to be a cliche, though it can be a cliche.
Okay. Well, let's just say that people borrow from if people borrow from you, then they're borrowing, then you're a good writer. Like if they copy you, then you're good enough to copy. That's a good motto, I think, because don't you think that people pretty much copy other people in a lot of different things, like maybe photography or like the styles of someone else?
Yes.
That's what I'm looking for. They kind of copy the same type of style and even borrow little things here and there from them.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. Well, I think overall, for me, I was not even really into the Lord of the Rings trilogy because I'm not one that likes scary movies. And so I didn't want to watch the movies, and I didn't really even want to read the books because I just wasn't really even an avid reader. Still kind of need to jump on that train. But anyway, what got me hooked was just all you kids, my kids, all of you guys convinced me to watch the movies, and I did, and I ended up really liking the storyline in the movies, even past all the gore and the head chopping off and rolling down the hills and all the gory monsters in there. I got past that, and I just learned to love the story so much that now I know when people are saying my precious, they're speaking of Golem, who is holding that ring so tightly, and he just doesn't want to let it go. And so now I could appreciate just how awesome the Lord of the Rings trilogy and then the Hobbits. And I feel like since you guys are short and everybody in our family's kind of hairy, I'm like, wow, I have hobbits among me. They eat everything. They're very particular about, their nostalgic trinkets. It's books in our house are kind of like gotten to the level of hoarder status. And when I watched the movies, I could definitely see that in the Hobbit hole. Like what a hoarder Bilbo Baggins was. So anyway, it's interesting. I can't wait to talk a little bit more about some more things when it comes to Tolkien. But just for starters, I just wanted to kind of whet people's appetites and use Zeke. Yeah, I use you a lot, Zeke, for information on who he is, because I don't really know about him very much. I would like to say I'm a fan, and maybe I'm starting to become a fan, or vicariously a fan through you guys. I don't know. But whatever the case, can't wait till next time. And we haven't really thought about what we're going to talk about in the next series, but
it will be about Tolkien.
It will be about Tolkien. Tolkien. Either way. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and come back soon and hang out with us on Oh My Geekers.